Hello, 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 and welcome to the Eat, Move, Win and Musings of a Bolshie Queenager podcast. Today we are joined by the very lovely and luscious Louisa Willcox. So Louisa and I have been friends, I suppose. That sounds really upsetting, doesn't it? Friends, I suppose, but we've been around each other for maybe just under a year.
Yeah, it must be. It must be coming up to about a year. I don't know. It's gone so fast.
It has gone really fast, and that's just the power of our friendship has gone so fast. So Louisa is a money extraordinaire, and we're going to be talking all about money. We all love money. We all want more money, and she's going to help us understand how we can get more money, which is a very, very powerful topic. So before we get into all of that stuff, Louisa, do you want to tell us a little bit about you, how you became this money expert and what it is that you actually do?
Yeah, so thanks for having me on, Emma. So as Emma said, I'm Louisa Willcox and I'm a money strategist, but I'm also a qualified bookkeeper. So for me, my journey very much starts, I suppose, when I actually became a mum. So I actually became a single mum at the age of 20. And at the time I was working full time and pretty much paying for childcare. Literally all of my money went straight on childcare. Like it was over £1,000 a month just to go to work. And I would like to say I was living paycheck to paycheck, but the reality is I wasn't even making it paycheck to paycheck. And it was really hard. And, I didn't ever really tell anyone how difficult it was because, we have that whole thing, especially in the UK of, we don't talk about money and money's dirty and we shouldn't talk about it. And I felt quite ashamed almost that I was in that situation. And I was claiming benefits and I was in a council house, so I was in quite a fortunate position in that regard, but it was difficult. And then as time went on, my son actually got diagnosed with cerebral palsy, and I was then, because of what I was going through with him, I wasn't able to work full time anymore, and I had to go part-time. And I actually met my now husband, and he moved in, so finances started changing. And we decided that we wanted another son together, and we also wanted to buy a house and get a mortgage. So I really had to start getting quite savvy with my money. And I've always had bad luck as well. Like I've been through so many cars. If I have a car, you can guarantee I will break it. So I always had that thing of never having enough money because my car went wrong or blew up, or quite literally, and things, or I crashed it. It's something always happened, and I am a careful driver. I will just put that out there. It's just I have
I am
bad
never
luck.
getting in a car with you.
I don't worry. I am a safe, careful driver. I just don't have luck with cars. And I quickly realized actually, really had to get on top of money for us to be able to go anywhere in life. And I've always been quite careful, but I just never had much luck with it. And then as my eldest son got older and he needed quite a major operation to help him walk unaided, I went on sabbatical leave when my youngest was a baby. And then we were just living under one wage, which was my husband's, and things got even tighter. And I like going out for coffees. I like enjoying myself. And to be able to do that, I had to be really money savvy. And then to move on a bit, obviously COVID hit and I was actually made redundant from my job. I was at the time working in an accountant training as a bookkeeper, and I was attending evening college to actually train. And then I qualified and I was made redundant, and obviously that was a huge hit again financially because I was just about to return. And I decided to go self-employed, mainly because for me, being a SEND mum and having a child with a disability, it is really hard in the working world. Like they go on about work-life balance, but the work-life balance isn't really created around a mum or a child with special needs or those needs, because there's a lot of hospital appointments. And I realized actually for me, self-employment was the answer. So I went down that route and I set up as a qualified bookkeeper. And I always had it in the back of my mind that as a bookkeeper, I really wanted to help people with their personal finances as well as their business ones. But a couple of years into the journey, so that's been going really well, I never really had that conversation. I always spoke to people about their books and their accounts, but we didn't have those conversations that I really wanted to have about the bookkeeping. And then my sort of something happened on Facebook, and I saw this whole post about passive income and all of this, and my whole world kind of like got shaped upside down. Oh my gosh, I don't have to do 9 to 5 anymore, and I don't have to do that. And there's so many entrepreneurs out there, because it's quite a lonely world.
Yeah.
And I'm in quite a small town, and I didn't know many people sort of working for themselves like I did. So I was like at home by myself most of the time, sort of trying to set a business up around a toddler at the time. And then I decided to expand into my money strategy business, where I really focus on helping, well, I mainly help female entrepreneurs understand their numbers and their money, and that's their business and their personal. And that's kind of how I got into this. And everything I do are things that I've learned from being a single mum on benefits, struggling, to growing 2 businesses, a homeowner, married, and at one point, I was the breadwinner of the family. And that's huge. And I always think if I can do it, other people can do it. And to be able to actually grow a successful business, and obviously personally with your own money as well, we really need to know our numbers and not shy away from them. That's kind of how I got into this.
No, what an incredible story though, just that whole feeling like you're kind of backed into a corner, like with the redundancies and all the additional time that you need to work with your son. And I just think it's incredible. Going back to the point you made at the beginning about how you felt when you were like living paycheck to paycheck, not even making it because your childcare costs were ridiculously high, which, by the way, I cannot believe the childcare costs down south in particular. Like, me and one of my best friends, we had our babies at the same time, but she lived down near Windsor and I was up in Scotland, and it was literally nearly double for the same amount of hours. It was absolutely crazy. Anyway, right, and you're talking about how you felt ashamed and how it's like it's never been, money's never really been an open topic that we should talk about. Why is that? Why does that happen?
I think this very much goes back to like your money story or your money psychology then, and how you're brought up. And obviously, if you go back generations, I think it was quite typical of our grandparents and our great grandparents that finance was always quite a very, very personal, quiet topic. No one really discussed it, and it kind of has a knock-on effect. So then, like my parents then, the way I was brought up and things around money. And I think everything that you learn from a child, that you see, heard, do, or read, anything that you're surrounded by, it really impacts us as an adult. Sometimes we don't always realize because it goes to our subconscious. So the way that we handle our money is very subconscious, because we just do it as repeat, but it's things that we have learned or behaviors that have been learned. And it's a knock-on effect because we all learn it from each generation. And it's not until we kind of get to ourselves and then we try to make changes that actually we go, hang on a second, that's because of this that happened as a child. And it could be that you heard your parents arguing about money, so actually you might see money as a bad thing, or that you were told money doesn't grow on trees, so you just think, am I ever going to get it? And I think this is why I felt that way, was because no one ever really had these open conversations. Now, growing up, my parents didn't have a huge amount of money. Me and my sister always had what we needed, and we were very fortunate. We were quite spoiled, but they didn't have a lot of money. My parents very much worked for everything that they had and have got, and they didn't really have the help around them to actually help them with things. But I do remember like the arguments, and I remember saying like, we've got to be careful on that. And I think just because of these things, and I was brought up to, you had to have a high professional job, so a lawyer, solicitor, something up there earning lots and lots of money. And I worked in the bank from the age of 15. I absolutely hated the job, and then I moved to be a bookkeeper. But everything I had done was because of what I'd been told or taught was the best thing to do. Wasn't really necessarily what I wanted to be doing at the time. I mean, I hated working in the banking industry. And even when I left that, it was the guilt and the shame that actually it's not a solicitor job, it's not a lawyer job, it's not that high end. Actually, there are other ways of working, which I now know, but because of how I was brought up and what I was surrounded by, for me, I just felt quite ashamed of that and my situation, that I didn't have that money, that at the age of 20, I wasn't a millionaire already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so interesting, and it's something that this whole what we believe to be true about money, something that I've done quite a lot of work on in the past couple of years. And everybody's got a story about everything. Like, we do a lot of work around beliefs that we have about our bodies and what we believe to be true about food and lifestyle and all that kind of thing when I'm coaching my clients. But we have to look at our entire lives and all these different topics in the same way. Well, what do I believe to be true about money? And you're right. When I was growing up, like I'm a little bit older than you, but when I was growing up, money wasn't talked about. It was a kind of hush subject. So and like, again, we were quite fortunate in the fact that we got what we needed, but there wasn't like an abundance. It was well, you've got to plan out what it is that we're doing, what holidays we're having, and what sacrifices do we have to make, to be able to afford those things. And it hasn't been until, I've gone into self-employment that you actually start thinking about, well, there is ways of having more. There is ways of earning your own, and there isn't a lack of money in the world, despite what we might be hearing just now in the media. And we are going to talk about cost of living. But a lot of it then comes back to, well, what do you do? What do you do now once you've identified that you've got a money story? And for those of you listening, if you have just sit for 5 minutes and write down like 10 bullet points about what do you believe to be true about money, and think about any early experiences around money, and guaranteed something will pop up that'll make you go, oh, but is that really true, or is that just something that kind of is embedded in my psyche and it's not really that true? So when you identify that you have gone, okay, there's a bit of a blocker there, what do people do to move forward?
Yeah, so this is quite a hard one. So like you just said, I tell my clients I work with to journal, and I tell them to do it over a couple of weeks. And I think it is really important because sometimes we do things that we don't even realize we're doing. And I say, track every single penny that you spend. And I don't care if that means you're going to spend £1.20 or it's £1.40 or maybe even £1.70 on milk now. It's gone up so much this year. I think it's £1.70, isn't it? But whatever, track it and how you're feeling when you're doing that and spending that money. So for example, myself, I could quite easily today go and spend £100 on my kids and not think about it. I could pick up a top for myself for a tenner and go, oof, can't spend that money on myself, and I'll put it back. I am the world's worst person for buying myself stuff, but I will throw money at other people without even considering it. And that very much goes back to my childhood. So, I was brought up, my sister had, my mum and dad always spent money on me and my sister, but I know my mum never really had. She would shop in the charity shops and things, So for me, I think it's kind of been ingrained that you spend on your children, but not yourself. But actually it is okay to spend on yourself. And I think the way you get over that is by going, look, okay, yes, I've got this belief, but actually, is this my belief or is it something that I've learned? And actually, it's okay. You are allowed to enjoy your own money. You are allowed to treat yourself. And it's just shifting your beliefs. And it's also moving money away from being a negative feeling into a bit more of an abundance one and being grateful. Again, we are, like you said earlier, we have a mindset of lack. So we very much go, well, there's not enough money. There isn't this. There is so much money. I mean, literally, it's being printed every single day. There is so much money out there. You need to believe that you are going to get it. And actually, even if you spend that tenner, you're going to get it back. But it's about being careful and mindful of your spending. It's not about sort of not allowing yourself to have it, but it's just being mindful. So very much when you go through, journal how you're feeling when you're spending, and just try to shift your beliefs on it into a bit more of a positive light rather than being a negative one.
Yeah, that's actually something that's really apparent in the way that I work. So I obviously coach clients, and it's not, I wouldn't say it's like there's different bandings of the investment that women can make, but the amount of time I couldn't spend that on myself. And like, well, why not? You need it.
Yeah.
And it's like, and asking them to have that thought about, if your child needed X, Y, and Z to feel healthier, to be happier, to be the person they want to be, would you do it then? Oh, absolutely. And it's this whole, I don't deserve because I'm a mum, and it's this kind of mantle that we put ourselves on.
Yeah.
And that, that can be quite an eye-opener for a lot of people going, well, why shouldn't I feel as if I deserve to do something for myself? And it's starting to question that whole belief system that we got, and then it can open a whole can of worms. Yeah, it's really funny how that happens. So like we touched on cost of living, which is huge in the media, so much so that I don't really watch the news or read much anymore, because it'll just frustrating the life out of me, especially when it was over the past 6 months, and we've get on all this, people can't afford to eat, and then we have Shell and Esso and all the big companies, and we've just made £12 billion in profit in
It
3 months.
infuriates me.
So there is obviously money,
Yeah.
but it's obviously not necessarily going to the people that we would want it to go to. So from your point of view, what advice can you give to people around the cost of living crisis, and what people can do to feel almost in control a little bit of their finances? Because I think that's maybe, for some people, that's the issue. Yeah, maybe, yeah, they're spending more and they're looking at their bank balance and going, but it's more about that not feeling in control because all the expenses are going up. So how can people help themselves?
Yeah, so this very much goes back to quite probably the basics, but we're not taught this in school. So one thing that our educational system really fail at is teaching us how to handle our money. You know, we learn algebra and all that rubbish, which we'll never ever probably use within our life. I mean, I'm a bookkeeper and I don't use algebra or anything like that. You know, you literally do have a calculator in your pocket nowadays, but we don't teach the basics of budgeting and looking after your money. And, you know, it goes for a household budget, and if you're an entrepreneur, your business budget as well. So you need to actually know how your money's working for you. And now with the cost of living crisis, it is more important to do this than ever. First things first, sit down, get your 3 months worth of bank statements out and go through and write down every single direct debit, standing order, regular bill payment that you have going out. Put it in state order, what it is, the detail and the amount. Make sure you know exactly what is coming out. And I say to do 3 months because then you'll see a pattern in what is actually leaving your account, and really get mindful of actually where your money's going. Because this is the thing, is it's so easy to sign up for different direct debit subscriptions and forget about them. And, you know, as an entrepreneur in your business, you see these 30-day free trials all the time. Go, I'll sign up for that. 30 days go by us and we forget, and then suddenly you've got all these subscriptions you're paying for. But also in your household as well, for those who aren't entrepreneurs, you know, we do exactly the same. You see, you know, now TVs like trial for 7 days and whatnot, and then suddenly you start paying it. But if you're not keeping track on what's going in and out of your bank account, it is so easy for that to just disappear. And then once you've done a monthly one, so to do that for the month, look at your money every single week. I do it on a Sunday for the week ahead and go, okay, these are all of the direct debits and the bills that are coming out of my account this week. This is what I have coming in, or this is what I have in the account, and this is what's left over. Because we need to be creative. It goes back to me saying my situation with being terrible with cars and having rotten luck, is you need to make an emergency fund. And that is literally a pot of money there. So if something like your tyre blew up or your boiler went, you can go, there's the £500, fix it, without having to dip into a credit card or a loan. And it does take time for it to build, but just actually being really accountable of your money and looking at your bank accounts every single day. Like, don't shy away from them. Don't be ashamed of your situation, because the moment of where you are with your money now doesn't determine where you're going to be tomorrow. It's just a moment of time, and things change. You know, I was a single mum really struggling, and don't get me wrong, I'm not rich at all, and you know, we're still sort of having to be careful with our finances and things, but I've gone from literally not even living paycheck to paycheck to being able to enjoy life a lot more now, to be able to go on holidays, to be able to go out for, you know, a coffee or a meal with a friend without thinking about it as much as what I used to have to. But I still include it in a household budget, and that is the biggest thing to do, is really keep track of where your money's going and how it's working for you, and also where you're spending. Because, you know, we all like takeaways. I love a takeaway, but actually there are other ways that you can do things. So your Dominoes that you might be getting, it's gone up so much. I love a Dominoes, but it's like nearly £50 or £60 for a family of 4 now. It's insane.
Oh
okay,
my
they
God.
did a 50% off, don't get me wrong, but even that still works out nearly £30. You can make it yourself, make pizzas yourself on a Saturday. So what we do, make it a family thing. We do our own pizzas. It probably costs us £5 in ingredients. It is a massive difference. So start making fakeaways. Look online, there are so many options.
And significantly healthier for you as well.
Yeah, a lot healthier. And the savings you'll make on that is just insane. I worked with someone back along, and they literally managed to save in a month £400
No
by
way.
changing their shopping habits, on changing their branding. So instead of buying all the branded goods, going to the supermarket own goods, by making their own takeaways instead of like eating out, and that it is insane where we spend our money without realizing it, because it's usually habit. And it's not, I'm not saying don't enjoy your life. You need to enjoy it, but just get more mindful and know how your money's working for you.
Yeah, that's insane. Imagine saving £400 a month on at the supermarket.
It's mad, isn't it? It's a huge amount of money. It's just,
and
yeah.
it is really easily done. Like I used to do all my it'd be online shopping, get it delivered to the house, and you're just clicking, pay the bill, off you go. And we changed that, and it wasn't because of money, it was because they kept substituting items that were completely bizarre. Like they would substitute chicken with prawns and like that. You're trying to tell me you don't have a single bit of chicken in this massive superstore? Like, that is clearly a lie. And I just got fed up of it, and we started going to another one, and it was like ridiculous amounts of money that we were saving, just because you're out of it wasn't habitual purchases anymore. You had to think about what it was, because it was different from what you normally bought. So I can see that it's easily done. Another personal story over lockdown, I had, and you'll laugh at me for this and you'll be very proud of me for picking up on it, but an £80 a month wine subscription, right?
You know what, to be fair, over lockdown, I don't blame you. To be fair, I can't judge on that one. I think we all did it in lockdown.
But £80 a month on wine is ridiculous. Like, I don't even drink £80 worth of wine every single month.
Well, you did.
Not I didn't actually drink it all, but like we ended up with quite a big bank of wine. But I did the same as what you suggested, like looking through bank statements and going, that seems a little bit excessive every single month. So yeah, there are savings to be found. And one of the other things, you talked about how to make more money. You'd seen the advert. You obviously saw the same advert as me about, how do you make passive income so that you're not trading money for time? And is that something that you help people with, of being able to find opportunities of where they can make more money?
Yeah, so it's something I talk about, and I'm quite passionate about it. So obviously for me, and obviously your mum too, it's very much about being able to bring in more, but I don't want to lose that time with my children. And actually, I've just had a massive shake up in my business, because I realized, although my business was going really well, my bookkeeping, I'd put it in a direction which actually didn't align with my personal values and what I was wanting to achieve. So I very much changed direction. And for me, with my money strategy, I'm pushing that more, and it is very much about still being able to help other people, but not having to keep trading time, like you say, in a typical 9 till 5, because we all do only have 24 hours a day, and you need to sleep, believe it or not, we actually do. I've tried working more, so I didn't have to sleep as much, and you do burn out, trust me, I've done it. It does not work, but it'll work for a few months and that's it. And I think it's just so important that we realize that there are other ways that you can bring in income, and you can help each other too. And I'm not saying, like, don't get me wrong, passive income, it doesn't mean you can put it out there and not think about it. You do still need to work at it. There's still time involved, but once you've built it and you've put it out there, there's not as much time involved, so you can bring in other streams. But the other thing to think about, and this is the biggest one I talk about, you can build your business up, or you can go to work and earn your money however you want to live and bring in your income is fine. But if you lost that mainstream of income and you haven't got any other streams coming in, are you still going to be able to live your life? Because I work with female entrepreneurs, and I do that mainly because 1 in 3 women are still financially dependent, and I think that's absolutely insane in this day and age. Because if your partner or your husband, whoever you're with, wasn't able to work tomorrow, if you can't be independent with your own money, what would you do? So we need to make sure we've got other streams coming in, so we can still pay bills, so we can still enjoy our lives.
Yeah, so it's so important. I didn't realize that stat was still as high as that. So
it's crazy. Yeah,
absolutely crazy. Okay, so how can people find you or learn more about you? Or is there anything that you can share that's going to be worthwhile to the listeners?
Yeah, so I launched my Financially Savvy podcast I think
Woo!
about a month ago now, and I've got a few recordings out on there. And actually today I actually did a recording on what was it? It was my own sort of secret money confessions. So it was saying about my own terrible spending habits. And
Do you want me to come on it and talk about my wine subscription?
I should have got you on that one, shouldn't I? Actually, I'm sort of going into Amazon, so please do, if you want to come and listen to that. Or I am over most channels. I'm even on TikTok. Don't judge me on that. As
All right, I'm
Louisa
on
will.
TikTok. Have you done any dancing in your pants yet?
Not in my pants, but I have done
Oh.
some dancing. The pants, I haven't quite got that brave enough yet. Maybe when I've toned the tummy up a bit more.
Well, if you need help with that. No,
Well,
I've not done any dancing in my pants either. I promised the world that there would be no dancing in my
I am
pants.
going to go and look and check, just to let you know. Because now you said it, but no, not planning on the pants. Well, maybe in summer in my bikini, it might be a bit different and get away with that. Right, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so you can find me on the socials as Louisa Willcox with 2 L's in that, and it's Louisa Willcox Strategist. Or I do have some freebies that you can all download. So I've got 10 tips to get on top of your household expenses for anyone wanting to get on top of their household money. And then your entrepreneurs out there, I've got 5 ultimate tips to get on top of your business finance. So I'll give you the links so you can share those with your listeners too.
I'll pop the links in the commenty bit.
Yeah,
don't even know what it's called. The commentary? That bit. The bit.
I don't know. The bit you will see.
That bit. I'll be there. Look underneath wherever we are just now. Okay, is there any final wise words that you'd like to share?
Oh, wise words. I need a bit more coffee for that, Emma, I think today. I think the biggest thing is don't be afraid of your money and make sure you know exactly how it's working for you. That's the biggest thing, because we're all struggling at the moment on all levels. And, I'm not going to say we're all in it together, because we're all in different situations, and how we all feel is very valid. And it is a really hard time, but again, it is only a moment of time and it will change. And just make sure you know how your money's working for you. Get your budget sorted, sit down and plan it. And it's okay to say no to different things so that you can look after your pennies too. That's my biggest thing, is get on top of your budget and know your numbers.
Oh, so wise, so wise. My biggest tip about money is shifting the belief that what you've got now is what you're going to have forever, but shifting it into you don't need to be stuck. There's plenty out there. You're deserving as anyone else of getting some. That's my big shift.
I love that. Yeah, that's so true.
All right, my lovely. Thank you very much. So this was Louisa Willcox, the money strategist. Do not get in a car with her. But other than that, you can trust her with your money.
Thanks for that, Emma. Oh my gosh, she's a terrible driver. I'm not a terrible driver, I just have bad luck with cars. Thank you for having me on.
Right, well, we'll talk very, very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.